Iby Knill, welcome to the University of Huddersfield.
Well,
You're here today for the Holocaust Memorial Day that the university holds annually. Your life in the war years is well documented, both through your website and your book. How have you been able to come to terms with what happened to you and indeed your family, and in particular your father?
I didn't actually, because I found that I got married and I came to England, and my husband was a widower with 2 sons and an army officer, and my story really didn't fit into an officer's mess conversation. And he comes from a very well-known family with a tremendous family history, so I just acquired his, and as far as my family history was concerned, I just put it into Pandora's box, threw it into the sea and threw away the key, and decided that I was just going to get on with living. Now, in theory, that's okay, but in actual practice, to put part of your life away, it's actually quite a traumatic event. And nobody thought at that time about post-traumatic stress symbols. You just carried on as best as I could on uppers and downers. And the first years were tough, because it was very, very difficult to really to put a part of your life away. Because you don't put only the bad parts away, you put everything away, you can't be selective. It was so that I couldn't remember German, in which I had been brought up, in which I was writing before, because it was part of the package that I had to throw away. And it wasn't until quite a lot later, I think it was early in the 1960s, that we thought, well, this is stupid. I mean, you're putting part of your life away, and it's a part of your life which is part of your life. So we decided with friends that we were going to go down to Austria, and we were going to drive through Germany as a sort of way of getting me back into German language and into areas as I used to be when I was a youngster. And the odd thing is that it wasn't until we arrived in Austria at the place, and we had booked into a hotel, and we were late, but this is in the days when you had to have currency for different countries, and you only got 25 pounds to take abroad. So it had to be sorted, absolutely so. Were the friends of ours, Bert and I. And we arrived in
Bert was your husband?
Sorry? Bert was my husband. Arrived in Austria, and we had said we wouldn't get there until 7 o'clock. We were just before 7, they had let our rooms. And the woman who owned it was a big fat German woman in the dorm room, and I lost my temper, and I swore at her in German, and I broke it. So from that moment onwards, I could speak again German, and it sort of broke one of the taboos, if you like to call it. And it wasn't until I was about my mid-70s, and I was bored. So what do you do when you get bored? You go and take another academic course. So I enrolled on a master's course in theology and religious studies. And the course was aimed at people of any religion or none, and I thought, lovely, I like to be a devil's advocate, it will suit me. It was a modular course, and you could select the modules provided they fitted into the right level for the particular thing. And about 20 students on the course. Quite a few of them were doing this as part of the ordination. One of the modules we had was topics in Christianity, and I thought, yes, that's, although most of my work I'd done was on women in the Bible, a subject that until then had been sadly neglected and just beginning to be, it was a novel thing to do. And we were sort of made an XY scale of what is a sin, what is evil, how do you differentiate about it, how do you define something in that particular way. And then one of the students says, well, right, where along this graph would you put the Holocaust? And the tutor said, well, only a person who'd lived there, who'd lived through it, could say it. And nobody knew about that I had. What a difficult situation. What do you do? Do you play the coward or do you own up? And I said, well, actually I was there. deadly harsh, as you can imagine. He said, can you talk about it? I said, no, and I've never have talked about it, but I will try to answer questions if you like. So we did. I had some questions that we dealt with. I can't remember what they were. Actually, it was taped, which I didn't know, and it became part of the course subsequently. And the tutor said, he says, which is part of the story, that you made a promise you would tell what happened there, but you haven't done so yet. I said, well, I don't think I can. He says, well, you made a promise. Promises have to be kept. You really got to go and write this all down. So he and two of my friends made like a cell around me and supported me. And over a period of 3 years and 300 words at a time, I wrote a book. I said, right, I've written it. I didn't say I would get it published or do anything about it.
Did you feel relief at publishing the book?
No.
As in, you'd thrown the shackles off?
No, it didn't. It didn't. And basically, I just felt that I fulfilled a promise, that's basically it. But talking about it actually was very, very difficult. I found it very, very difficult in the beginning. And the only way I could cope was as a dialogue of somebody asking questions and me answering. I couldn't, as I do now, stand up and talk about it as a continuous story. It took time, it took a lot of time to do it. And to be absolutely honest, it is still not the easiest of things to do.
Can you forgive?
But it's a very difficult one. If I could come face to face to somebody who was involved in it, I would ask him 2 questions. Why did he do it? And what did he do with his life since then? In other words, there's such a thing as redemption by deeds. Has he done something about it? Why did he do it? And why did he whatever do it? To be absolutely honest, I'm a mother. If it was the question of protecting my children, I would do anything. And I think I can understand people to protect their own children, to do practically anything. I can understand that. And I do not know what I would have done in that position. Therefore, I don't think it's up to me to judge. I don't want to judge. Maybe it's a coward way out, but basically I feel that unless I was in that position, I can't really say what I would do. So how can I judge what they did?
Today, genocide still goes on. You only have to look at Africa, the Middle East. Less than 25 years ago, Bosnia, the Bosnian Wars. It'll never go away, will it? Do you feel that?
You see, there's this slight difference. What is going on at present, this kind of genocide is like tribal warfare that has been going on forever. And it's not going to stop until people learn to live with each other, to appreciate each other, to accept differences and value them. Because, as I say, if we were all the same, wouldn't life be boring? Being different makes life more interesting. But we have to value the difference, and we have to respect that. The difference between genocide and the Holocaust was that the Holocaust was like a machine. It was like a factory. An order was given here, it was carried out there, and you had people doing little bits in between, not knowing or appreciating, or maybe did, that they were part of the machinery which in the end result murdered 11 million people. It was an odd thing. It was a racially, not Christian, racially non-religious thing, an Aryan ideal, because the first people to be gassed were the mentally handicapped in Germany, Germans, in 1930. All the homosexuals were sent into concentration camp and gassed. They were basically trying to make a clean race, which wasn't Christian, it wasn't Jewish, it was Aryan. In Germany, in the late 1920s, the situation was there were economic problems, there was a lot of unemployment, there was a rising National Socialist and rising Communist Party. The manufacturers, the people with money, supported the National Socialists because they didn't want communism. They were afraid of communism. The balance was like that. If Hitler hadn't been such a good speaker, if he hadn't been financially supported, Germany could have become communist.
What message will you give to the audience tonight?
Actually, two things. One, that under the skin we are all the same. And two, that every single person can make a difference.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.